Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?
Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
That's right, and this is the Brad and John Show, bjshow.co, just like good old Mr. Egbert just said. It is Pi Day today. Do you get into this kind of stuff, John? Is this like the kind of thing where you like, oh, I'm going to check out what...
Absolutely not, and it drives me bonkers. Now, I do, like, I appreciate the concept of Pi Day because, like, it's funny and everybody that's, you know, like, every cute girl could be like, oh, my God, I'm such a nerd. I know pi to, like, 5 places. Oh, my God. But in general, like, the whole 314 Day, it reminds me of hipsters. It reminds me of, join us for our sale. You can buy a $65 sweatshirt with STL letters on it for only $44 today.
Okay, by the way, which two things that and something you mentioned yesterday, you just tweaked my brain there, which is getting harder to do every day, but that's a whole other story. Okay, something you mentioned yesterday, let's come back to KFRU, but more importantly, you sent me something, I guess was it last week, the week before, about you called it the hipster company.
Oh, yeah.
Because you just talked about, was it called Arch? What was it called again?
Arch Apparel. Yeah, I think we should talk about this, Brad.
Okay, Arch Apparel is what, going out of business?
Here's the 30-second background for people who don't know. St. Louis has a hometown brand called Arch Apparel, and you have undoubtedly seen this logo. They have a very simple STL logo, and if you've ever been to a Cardinal game or you've been walking around a park, especially where there's a lot of hipsters, you'll see their Arch Apparel. They have a distinct typeface and logo. So they expanded from, they originally had a store, I believe, right off Hanley was their original one. They opened one, Brad, on 5th Street in St. Charles.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then they also have a brick and mortar store down at Ballpark Village. And so uniquely, the weekend before last, Arch Apparel just had they posted an Instagram reel from their Hanley location, I guess Brentwood location, I guess you could call it. And it was like flash sale. And they panned around the store, Brad, and you could buy all their office equipment, and you could buy pens and scissors and storage containers. And people in the comment section are like, hey, are you guys closing? Are you guys moving? I think they called it a moving sale. Those kind of comments, the account didn't answer. But if you ask them, and they call it cash and carry, by the way, Brad, which is always, you know, we're getting close to tax time. And, you know, a lot of companies would much rather have a little cash than have to disclose their electronic payments. But the account would answer questions like, hey, you know, how long are you guys open? But they wouldn't answer the question, are you guys closing that store? Now, I have a theory here, Brad. You ready?
Yeah.
My theory is we are reaching a bottoming of the retail cycle. And for folks who don't know, if you think, oh, I'd like to buy a STL sweatshirt, should I go to Walmart or should I go to Arch Apparel? You can buy a sweatshirt from Arch Apparel with a simple STL logo on it, Brad, for around about $65. Now, if you haven't paid attention to the economy lately, not a lot of people in the last 18 to 24 months or want to buy I think I saw a hooded sweatshirt on there the other day, Brad, for like $80. And the gimmick is it has Murphy Lee has a lyric that says, I'm so St. Louis. Like, it's got a little thing that says, I'm so St. Louis, and it's like $80 for a sweatshirt. So my theory is, Brad, as we reach the bottoming of the economic cycle here, of the retail cycle, we're going to have more and more companies that figure out, hey, it's pretty hard for us to have a brick and mortar location at Ballpark Village, on 5th Street, in Brentwood. Let's consolidate, let's close. And I would be surprised, Brad, if these companies aren't in a ton of debt. And here's my theory. Here's what I think I mentioned to you on text, Brad. For folks who don't know, I think everybody knows, we all used to get those Bed Bath & Beyond, those blue coupons. Bed Bath & Beyond closed all their brick and mortar locations. They were purchased by the company that was Overstock.com. You probably remember Overstock.
Right, right.
And Overstock rebranded as Beyond. Their ticker symbol, by the way, and by the way, disclosure, I do own Beyond. Their ticker symbol is BYON. So you say, John, who would want to buy Bed Bath & Beyond? What's the value there? The value is not just in inventory. The value is in their customer list. Brad, you know people who've had baby showers and wedding showers. Bed Bath & Beyond had a treasure trove of consumer information that's worth something. Here's what Arch Apparel should do. If they are indeed facing financial straits or hard times, leave your Ballpark Village brick and mortar location open during Cardinal season. Keep losing money down there. You know, people come in and steal, I'm sure. I'm sure it's hard to staff it. Not that many people are paying $80 for a sweatshirt. Leave it open for visibility. Start talking to the folks at Beyond. Last week, a lot of our listeners have probably purchased clothes from Zulily. Are you hip to Zulily, Brad?
No.
Okay, Zulily has a lot of flash sales. In my old days working at the Stress Factory, because I'm in communications, I was pretty much the only man on the floor. One girl would yell from her office, "Oh my God, Zulily has the Coach purses up." And then all the girls would go nuts because they would have flash sales. The company Beyond just purchased Zulily for like pocket change, like $4 million or something. So if I'm Arch Apparel, I talk to Beyond. I say, listen, you guys are making acquisitions left and right. The Beyond team is highly incentivized to have their stock price go up to make acquisitions. And in general, if I'm Arch Apparel here, I'm pitching myself to Beyond and I'm saying, you need to establish a group of strong local brands. We will sell you our list. And by the way, as executives, we want you to pay all four of us executives $200,000 a year, give us BS titles like creative director, and take this company off our hands.
Okay.
So that's my pitch for Arch Apparel.
So and don't get mad at me when I say this. That's a long-winded explanation of saying you think they're just trying to sell themselves, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, next thing you said, which was sort of interesting, you said that we're at the bottom of the retail cycle. Okay. What's interesting about this is yesterday I listened to Mark Reardon on 97.1 yesterday, and he talked about he goes on the air at 3 o'clock, so I would imagine he gets down to the station 1 or 2, and he said that on the Olivia Rodrigo concert day, when he got to the station, let's say it's 1:30, they were already wrapped around the building waiting to get in. And then he had one of his other compatriots who's on, I think, Y98, who comes in one day a week, Alex, I can't remember his name, and him and his girlfriend went to the concert, and they said you could not get to the merch places because he said even during one of the songs, his girlfriend went out to the merch stand and stood in line for a half an hour. Now, here's my interesting question. If the retail cycle is in the toilet, why are people paying $80 to $100 for a Olivia Rodrigo shirt, concert shirt? Explain that to me.
I'll tell you exactly why, Brad. Because 5 years ago, if we're at a different point in the retail cycle, and by the way, we're bottoming the retail cycle. I'm not saying that we're at the very bottom of the retail cycle. We are bottoming in the retail cycle. The difference is, Brad, 3 years ago in the retail cycle, people were paying from their debit card and people were paying from their credit card and then paying at least a portion of their credit card off. Today, people are pushing their credit to the absolute limit. So this has nothing to do with how much money people have. It has to do with the fact that people over the last 18 to 24 months in the retail cycle are more and more willing to spend money. And what we haven't talked about on this show, Brad, and we should dedicate a segment to this sometime, are two things. BNPL, which is buy now, pay later, which does not, as I understand it, I'm not involved in any BNPL. I don't have any BNPL accounts like a firm or anything like that. But in the olden days, you used to put stuff on credit, and then, if you didn't pay it, your credit would get dinged. With buy now, pay later, you just say, I'll pay for it in 12 months, whatever. And you're not facing any the same type of late fees. You're just racking up a ton of interest. So, Brad, what we cannot do is we cannot look at something anecdotal like people lining up to buy overpriced Olivia Rodrigo merchandise and say, economy's back. These people are putting it on their credit cards, Brad. And thanks to buy now, pay later, if you have an account with a firm, it's not even like having a Visa, Brad. You just think, I'll pay for it in 2026.
Well, and once again, if we were to get Dave Ramsey in here, Dave Ramsey would just, his blood pressure would, the blood pressure cuff would explode because Dave Ramsey, once again, talks about this all the time. But once again, I find Dave Ramsey to be, I know I'm going to tick people off, but I think he's a hypocrite in some areas because of the fact that there are people buying his courses on credit cards. Matter of fact,
of course there are.
If you go on his site and you try to buy one of his courses, it actually says something to the effect that we hope that you're not using a credit card. We hope you use a debit card. But I told you this story. I saw this 2 weeks ago. This Frank Abagnale guy who's still kicking, and he's got to be like in his 80s or something like that. I'll look it up. He's the guy that was Catch Me If You Can. He's the guy that...
Oh, yeah.
That, hold on a minute. Who's calling me at this time in the morning? Hold on a minute. Hello? The spam... Hello?
Hi, I'm Becky, calling you from Life Grows. Can you hear me?
Oh, good God,
hold on a minute.
Brad.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. Yes, I can, Becky. Yeah, Becky, go ahead.
You, as this is an annual enrollment period for 2024, and you can qualify for increased grocery coverage, flex card, and increased cashback up to $174. I believe you have active Medicare cards A and B, right?
And C and D.
I'm
Yes,
Agent
I do.
Blaine Luetkemeyer. Get off my phone. This is Agent Blaine Luetkemeyer.
I am going to connect you to my senior supervisor, who will assist you further to get maximum coverage options. So stay with me.
Thank you very much.
Please do not download a virus. This is Amazon support. Do not download the virus.
Hey, this is Jennifer. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. What's your name again? Hello?
My name is Jennifer. Actually, this call is about Medicare benefits.
Yeah, I really need Medicare right now. I'm having a heart attack even as I speak. Can you get me signed up for Medicare real quick so I will be able to pay for the ambulance when it gets here? Hello? She hung up on me. By the way,
there we go.
By
Brad.
the way, John.
Very good. You know what? I didn't have high hopes for that call, and then you came through, Brad.
By the way, John.
You hear the tornado sirens?
Yes. They're going off at your place too?
Yeah, they are.
Interesting.
Now, usually I would run outside, Brad, because when I hear it, I'm a man, so when I hear a tornado siren, I go outside and I want to see it.
John, you and I are cut from the same piece of cloth.
Who in their right mind that can reach between their legs and feel a pair of testicles doesn't run outside when there's a tornado siren? Now, and I believe, I feel about tornado sirens, Brad, like I feel about television shows.
John.
Tornado sirens are great for women and children, okay? Women and children should watch TV and watch Downtown Abbey and the Bravo gay male, female network, whatever, and they should go in the basement during a tornado, absolutely. But if you're a grown man, go outside and check out the tornado.
John, you are so interesting today. I mean, you were just burning them up. First off, the women, the Olivia Rodrigo fans are on your case. You know, they're not.
And you know what? They love it because they seek conflict, Brad, and they seek out men that they can have conflict with, so the man can put them in their place.
I see.
It's a screening mechanism for real men. Because you know what, Brad? We all know guys that would be like, oh, wow, you're so empowered and crazy. I could never handle you. And she says, yeah, that's right. Want to hear me burp? I'm so tough.
John.
She needs a man to grab her and say, no, sit down and be quiet.
Listen to John.
Am I right or am I right, Brad?
Well, I'm not going to agree with you because I don't necessarily agree with that type. I view women and men as sort of co-equals nowadays. And I don't think one has any superiority to the other. I think a good relationship between a man and a woman is when you can have give and take, but it's not
Absolutely.
one-sided. It's not one-sided. It's to the point where and to me, that's the ideal situation. Being in business, to me, that's an ideal situation for any business relationship. I
agree. No, and Brad, Listen, I mean, sometimes we say things for effect and to prove a point, but of course relationships are symbiotic, and of course there's both sides, and there's a lot of things that men can and should learn from women. But the idea of accepting bratty behavior and being like, oh my God, that's so cute, I can never handle a girl like you, you're doing her a favor, because you're saying, look, you do not want my weak genes, my weak sperm, you do not want my weak offspring. Eliminate me from the population and reproduction pool and choose a man who can put me in my place.
John, you know what?
And that's the question for women. Do you want to have strong children, or do you want to have weak, subpar children?
John is currently selling a book on Amazon, which is about essentially internet bullying and things like that.
Yeah.
John needs to write a book on what men should be today. But see, the interesting thing about this is you and I sort of skirt this issue where I say where the male population has been, to a certain extent, to quote Fonnie Willis, emasculated. You know what I mean?
100%, Brad. You're exactly right. We agree on this.
I mean, because of the fact that just like, for example, I the more I think about this, you're going to laugh when I tell you this. The more I think about this, the more I think to myself, you know what? I'm going to really try and do this. This whole thing about the stupid drag queen, storybook hour. Why can't we have, Hulk Hogan do a storybook hour where you go like, hey kids, hey boys, you young boys, you need to be the man. When something happens at your house, you need
Brad,
to step
I agree.
up.
And let me interrupt. There are so many women out there that want and that yearn for men to accept the masculine role in relationships. And that does not mean that the woman is inferior in any way. Men and women are just different. And real women will continue to want real men, Brad.
I don't think so. I don't think you can make blanket statements like that, John. I know women, I know strong women who have a relationship, whatever you want to call it. They're partnered, as the current term is.
Oh, yeah.
They're partnered with doofus guys, I mean, and how many times do you see, just recently, I don't know why this conversation took place, but I have a business relationship with a person, and they mentioned to me because they're on their second marriage, and they talked about how they were married for 10 years the first time, and it was 9.5 too long. And I go like, okay, do I bite on that or not? And I say, okay, what do you mean by that? Well, she says, I knew it was a wrong marriage as I'm walking down the aisle, but I needed to be married, and I needed to have a man in my life. So in other words, you're telling me you knew you married the wrong guy? Oh, yeah. And I go, why did you stick for 10 years? Well, I didn't want to make it look like, I really admitted that I married the wrong guy.
People don't want to admit mistakes, Brad.
You're
exactly right.
I'm going like, why would you torture yourself for 10 years?
Well, you know why, Brad? Because that type of personality wants to be miserable, and they want to be a martyr, and they want to be in pain. We're up against break.
I don't understand that. I really don't. Okay, we didn't get to my other question with care for you. We're going to take that to the next break.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?